Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we are going to be trying out some Boros Heroic in Explorer. So this is a deck that's been picking up popularity in Pioneer. I've had a lot of success with it. I got Mythic with it last month. And Frank Karsten just did a really nice data matrix in terms of win rates from the European and Canadian RCs from this past weekend. And Boros Heroic was one of the higher performing decks. Additionally, it is a relatively cheap deck in arena terms if you do want to get into the Explorer format. And the big expense, really, the only rares in the deck outside of 2 Dreadhorde Arcanists, which some of the recent lists have actually been coming off Arcanist and instead being playing 2 copies of Skrelv, which is standard legal, is the mana base. And the great thing about the Boros mana base, Boros has a lot of different decks for it. So you have Boros Heroic, you have Boros Pia, you have Boros Convoke, all that see some play in the Pioneer Explorer format. So you're really investing like once, and then this mana base also ports over really well to Historic as well. So investing in lands always a safe thing. And the thing that made this deck kind of jump out recently is the inclusion of Monstrous Rage. So this is the only change from the list that's been around for a while, but having a 1 mana big pump effect that also continuously allows for trample. Prior, you were playing that 2 mana instant that gave +2/0 in trample to 2 creatures. Being 1 mana versus 2, big effect, in part for Dreadhorde Arcanist, but also just lets you double spell. What am I at? I'm 12-2 with this list. Mono green, super easy matchup. Various Angel Piles, pretty slow. The hardest matchups are heavy removal decks. I lost to Dimir Rogues, which had a bunch of removal. A lot of fatal pushes they saw, and then Rakdos midrange, another difficult matchup, especially some of the recent lists are on Sheoldred's Edict, which Sheoldred's Edict is pain because it gets around God's Willing style effects. But the core of this deck, what we're trying to do is throw out a threat, ideally like a Favored Hoplite or Illuminator Virtuoso, and then just playing a bunch of spells to increase their power. Now, notably, Favored Hoplite in terms of combat, if you target it, it prevents combat damage. So if you're blocking, even if their creature's bigger, you prevent that combat damage, which is kind of cool. Virtuoso with double strike and trample deals huge amounts of damage. The 10th District can help set up your draws with Scry. You have Prowess, which is more singular bursts, but even just going Hoplite into Swift Spear, you get a pump spell. It targeting the Hoplite, it gets bigger, Swift Spear gets bigger, so a lot of kind of utility. And then you have Reckless Rage. 1 mana deals 4 to creature an opponent controls, 2 to a creature you control. So outside of Virtuoso on the turn you cast it, all other creatures basically outscale this damage that your creature takes. And this deals with most of the creatures in the format. So deals with everything from the Angels deck, deals with 4 toughness creatures from mono green at least. You're still going to have a bit of trouble with the Cavalier, but deals with Greasefang, deals with all that. So we will give this a go. Hopefully the ladder just reset a couple days ago, and we'll see if we can replicate the success we've had in the past month or so. I'm on Arena. So Explore best of 1. There is sideboard options for this if you do want to take it to best of 3. I can put the full list of what folks are using from recent best of 3 tournaments as well. Kind of the main tweak, like I said, is some lists are on Dreadhorde Arcanist, some are on Skrelv. I think it's really just dependent in terms of the meta. If you're running into more green, stuff like that, I think Arcanist just not being killed. Arcanist could run away with games. But if you're in a Rakdos heavy removal matchup, then I think having the Skrelv has a bit of utility. So best of 1 tends to be a little bit more linear, so we'll give this a shot. This hand's a little bit of a trap. I think we're going to, because we have the draw, if I was on the play I wouldn't keep this, but our only pump spell is not really a pump spell, so that's actually really good for us. So this is likely Angels out of our opponent. So we do want to find a Reckless Rage. So sooner than later, I do want to get this 10th District going. I think we do this. Chip in a point of damage. We really need Reckless Rage on curve here. So I'm going to set an upkeep trigger. Actually, maybe not. Perfect. So I think the way our hand's situating, we'll go probably a white here. Because I can go 2 spells. Okay, so here we're gonna go let's go Monstrous Rage first, because I want to see where I want to throw this scry. So here, deal for target your creature. So depending if we kept on top or not would dictate how I wanted to proceed with that next turn. So I think the God's Willing is not where we want to be. And we'll just go Favored Hoplite here. I'll probably hang on. So usually what you want to do is hang on to some extra lands, in part to discard to Virtuoso later. But we're probably not setting up a Virtuoso turn. So we're drawing a lot of Hoplites, which is not where we want to be in this matchup. And the problem is with this Resplendent Angel, it can probably take over. I think we're just setting up like this. Drawing 3 Hoplites, not where we want to be. We've only drawn really 2 spells. And if they have like another Coco, if they have 2 Angels, it's very easy for them to just kind of overwhelm the board at this point. Yeah, they're going to have 2 Cocos and we draw 2 spells. They only play 4 Cocos. It's a little painful. Yeah, can't win now. So we needed them to like not find a bishop there off that Coco. Going like another God's Willing, I don't think does anything. God's Willing, well, it's good to push through the last points of damage if they have like a full board. We didn't have ways to continuously proc. And the thing is, you don't want to have multiple like individual creatures. In this matchup, especially against Angels, you want to go all in on like 1 or 2 creatures because you can't target both. So like we saw in that game, our Hoplites just not getting large enough. Because at that point, we were really trying to shape the top of our deck. So going all in, we had the Trampler, we had a nice body, but they gained like 12, 14 life there. So even with the kind of burst damage that we can output, it's hard to kind of outpace it as an aggro deck. And that's fairly common against the Angels deck with all these creature aggro decks. If you're able to kind of interact with their early creature while putting sustained pressure, you can kind of get away with it. But outside of that, if you're not kind of curving out, they're going to win kind of the bigger game. So Jengantha, this could be the mirror. So this hand is very much all in on this Virtuoso. I'm going to keep it, and we're going to try. Okay, so that's actually very good. So there was a line where I play this Virtuoso. But my thought here is I can use my Reckless Rage on 2 to kill their threat and then untap. So they're on 10th District here. So I want to control their board. As long as we could control their ability to Reckless Rage, it's good for us. Land would be great here. Okay, so we kind of got baited there. We will need to see... So I think we... We could be dead next turn. Pump. Pump. Okay, so I think here we just take a chance. We needed the land. I still think it was right that turn to take them off their threat. So Defiant Strike. 6 double strike. $14. They need one more effect, which they should have. Actually, they don't hit. Yeah, they hit. Yeah. So this matchup's largely... I think if we hit a land there, then maybe, but play draw, they were able to kind of get ahead. It could have been right to play Virtuoso earlier, but sometimes it's going to happen. You could see how, like, that game, they 18'd us at that point. So kind of flip of the dice. I've increasingly not loved the Spike Field Hazards we saw in that game. I might actually cut them. I know the lists are playing it to reduce the number of spells, but you're not generally going to target your own creature with them. It does give you a play against elves, so like a turn 1 elf out of your opponent. But it does... Like, you're oftentimes not going to want to fight on that axis. Sounds reasonable. Depending on how aggressive they are, like Swiss Spear into that, we'll keep. Because I think this list plays 18, 20 lands. So like the spike fields more often than not are going to have to be. Okay, so this matchup against like mono greens, pretty easy. You set up a big Virtuoso draw. Ah, it might be a stompy variant. I think we just set up for the turn. This could be Golgari. If they're on the Fabled Passage, that could be a way to enable Fatal Push. I think this is fine though, because they would have to go into Virtuoso. Like they would have to target that with the Fatal Push. Yeah, see Golgari here. Tap out. We probably win if they tap out. So they traverse here for a basic land. Double black could be something like Alyssa. Okay, so Liliana's also fine.
This is my home, and I don't appreciate it when people touch my things. Ah, one of your friends has to leave.
Okay, so we go Ancestral here. I think we get rid of Hoplite here. because Swift Spear having haste has some utility. Sokuzan's also reasonable here. I'm gonna play out a second creature here. And the reason being, this allows me to play around another Edict style effect, whether it be another Liliana or it be Shieldred's Edict. We needed like a monstrous rage, just something else to put a little bit more power. Anger, like a single anger or single thing is not huge. Okay, second ooze. So we are looking for a way to push some trample damage through. Okay, so they did have another edict effect, so they could get in with a block here. See, they should have waited to block and then do that. Okay, Anger's actually really nice, so I might be able to go all in. So let's set up our scries here. God's Willing is nice here. So Lily can have an edict effect. But they would have to set up a double block, and if they set up double block, I just do protection here. So that's... if I do this, that goes to 7, 10. Lethal. Got him. Alrighty. So that wasn't too bad, like we played into quite a bit of removal that game. Like I don't feel bad losing the mirrors because it's really just play draw who kind of gets a shaped hand. You're both kind of turning south. Like I don't think you block in the mirror, really. You're really gonna just try to push through the damage. Alrighty, let's do this another go. See how it plays out. The opponent goes first, so not necessarily sustained damage, but I think this hand is reasonable. Reckless Rage is a lovely addition here. Perfect, so I think here we do want... let me see how they block. So since no blocks, we'll do this. If we are seeing an increase in angels, we might need to kind of tweak the way we approach this. Okay, so God's Willing. Do you think we are shocking here? So that's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I think we just gotta push as much damage as possible here. So, a little bit short there. Hopefully no collected company. They always have collected company. Miss, miss, miss. Bishop of Wings. Or like... how about the perfect hand? That's frustrating. We lose. Honestly, if it wasn't for like Resplendent, like if this is just a Giada, we can probably still compete. I think we're gonna cut the Spike Field. At least down to 1, I think. It's a bit annoying to get hit by Angels this much. If it's coming back, then I don't think this deck is super viable. We could see how like we're able to output some damage, but being like a turn short there. There's not really a fight style effect in solely red. We could try maybe just like Infuriate. Just like big burst damage now that we also have the trample. Okay, I'll keep this. So this has a promising hand. We can go Virtuoso here. So hopefully just mono green, and then we like blow their doors off next turn. So the nice thing too is when you target with the Homestead Courage, you can discard it to get the Virtuoso and then cast it out of your graveyard, which is pretty impactful. If their whole turn here is just Wolf Willow into like a Dork, also very big here. Okay, so we're going to start with Homestead. I think we get rid of Arcanist. Because I think we're just going to try to win for next turn. Because they probably block the Elf. Or block Virtuoso here. Just given that it's double strike. And then we Monstrous Rage it. Oh, so you're just like completely not going to do... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They can go Nykthos here. If I do this, that's 7, 8, 16. Yeah, that's lethal. Okay. This is what I was saying with like mono green. They just don't do enough to actually interact with you. If you get Virtuoso on 2, you pretty much untap. That's turn 3 kill. Which is pretty snazzy. I just want to see about if there's anything for... If like we're seeing an increase of... Where's the deck? Of the Angels deck. So sometimes they play Shajiri's Shelter. I don't like Shelter. Brave the Elements doesn't really do much. Ideally we want instant sorcery, 1 mana. Let's see what our options. So there's like this bargain one, gives us lifelink. Don't really care. We don't have much to like bargain fodder. There is like the cheeky house mouse, but not really where we want to be. +2/1 in flying. Again, 2 mana is not really where we want to be. Why is this set as historic? Explore. I would love Fragment Reality. The Laydown Arms, not really where we want to be. We have the Defiant Strikes already in the deck. There's Fight as 1, but again, indestructible. Don't really care about that. There's Gird for Battle. Not an unreasonable effect. Karametra's Blessing's more of a protection spell. Righteous Strike is not more for enchantments. We don't really have the party effect. Surge of Salvation, not where we want to be. So if we look at red then, so +2/2, each attacking non-human creature gets trampled. Notably, all our things are humans. So not really where we want to be. 1 mana +3/0. Oh, you get +3/2 with Infuriate, which could just be like where we want to be. I think just getting more like burst damage has a lot of utility. I think we... How many creatures are we at? 18 creatures is quite high. So I'm going to try a version where we trim on the Arcanists. Like, what this deck wants is Reckless Impulse. That would be ideal. Obviously not a card we can play. We don't care about oil counters. Kadoltha doesn't work. You don't want First Strike. Monster, like, I would love to just play more Monstrous Rage, all things considered. So the trade-off, we could get Haste, which is really nice, but it tends to be a little weaker. Deals 3 damage to a creature. Reckless Airstrike. That'd be a decent sideboard, but if you're playing sideboard, you just play Rending Volley. You don't really care about artifacts. Don't care about that. So it's like, do we want the extra? We could like thud an opponent, but not the best. Yeah, so I'm thinking it's either like Infuriate here, or we take off 1 power and we give the ability to give haste to something. This allows us to have more explosive Virtuoso draws, but I think at that point, we're not really going in that avenue, so I think I'd rather the extra power. And I do think I want to trim 1 Spike Field in lieu of... What's our mana distribution in this deck? Probably just a red source. We'll just play a basic mountain, I think. Since we're cutting a land that way there. So we'll give this one a shot, see how it plays out. Oh, we don't care about that. Filters. Too many. Let's give this one a shot, see how it plays out, if it's any better. This is where we're just going to kind of tweak. When I was playing this last month, I didn't play a single, I think maybe 1 Angels deck. Like, it wasn't too popular, but could be beginning of the season. We are Platinum. Angels tends to be rampant in the Platinum ranks, but we'll kind of see from there. I mean, we all in. If they don't have Fatal Push on 1, we're good. If they have Fatal Push on 1, we're dead. But I think this is reasonable. 2 removal spells plus pump. Could rage this turn and then just, like, I guess, what do I get baited by? Like another, I think we maybe hold off for a turn. Because I get blown out if they go 1-drop Reckless Rage. So I'm going to just keep God's Willing up for the rest of the game. And I went with the Trample here just because Trample will stick on with the Infuriate damage. So depending on how they block. Again, I just want to play around Reckless Rage. Fine. So this would go 6. Seven, so I need 1 more spell. Right? So this goes 3. That's Prowess 3, 6, 7. So I just need to find a spell here. Blue. This is a riskier line because if we don't find it, we die. But we got it, so we're good. I just think at this point, with them having that many cards in hand, plus their Scry engine, we have to go for it. Because it's with upwards of 4 mana and like this going, they could kill me from 15 mana. So we took a little bit of a risk there. That hand had potential, but the double removal spell really paid off there, just to be able to push through our damage. So that's far, like, we've lost the Angels match. We lost the Mirror. So like Angels is proving to be a tough matchup, but you're only going to be able to kind of play around like top deck in that case. If they're consistently going, you know, Bishop, Righteous, Coco. Most, like I said, of these creature decks are going to have a hard time. We're going to try this again. Okay. Mono green, we like. I do need to find a Reckless here. Or, so I think we just shock in here. So this hand's not as great as our other hands. Having a double striker is really impactful. Okay, so Kiora basically is free. That's 3, 4, 5, 6. Cavalier comes down. They do hit Nykthos. So maybe they get greedy and don't block. Oh, okay. Math time. Math time. Homestead. So Defiant Strike brings us to 3. This brings us to 3. This adds another 4. That's 7. That's 8. So not quite enough. So we can get outside of prowess range. Big thing here is this does take them off quite a bit of devotion. So the hope is, at the very least, we could sneak through damage. Part of the problem though is like this doesn't get continuous buff. So Llanowar's free. They have a storm in hand. Hopefully it's a bad storm. All things considered, that's a pretty bad storm. This will put a counter. I guess they storm again. They popped off there. I needed a different threat than this. Let's see what we get here, but I think we're dead. Beanstalk's a weird one in this list. Really only gets procced off. Well, I guess the Cavaliers and Storm. Jeez, they're destroying everything now.
And you look like lunch. I love to make a splash.
Problem is, like, I could have lethal here.
Leviathans, octopuses, serpents. Oh, I love them.
Just see what they get with Karn. They get like Portal or Meteor Golem or like Cityscape Leveler. Yeah, now we're good. If that was like Hoplite, we're okay. Obviously, Virtuoso wins on turn 3 with our hand. The Swiss Sphere is the weakest into mono green. We were still like, it's a bit frustrating. Like we were a little bit short. The problem is like we get all this prowess boost, but not actual sustained. We'll get this one more. Take it from there. Part of it's just kind of tweaking. I still think more often than not we win that matchup. So opponent goes first. I think we keep this. It's a little iffy. Obviously if they're a removal based deck. So we see red, Fanatical Firebrand. Give me like a 1-drop. Well, we're all in here. Hopefully they use their Bone Crusher Giant. If they don't have Bone Crusher Giant, I might be able to kill them. Roberto, good start for them. we got to do this and then just hope that they don't have the stomp. Yeah. Kind of anticlimactic there. The mono red matchup's fine. Obviously, you keep it like that's probably a risky hand because we didn't have the 1-drop. So we were really only getting going on turn 3. That one didn't count. Let's do a real one. Opponent goes first. I think Virtuoso's a fine. I mean, like, if this is mono green, we could probably win turn 3. We have the Trample Enabler, we have Defiant Strike. These hands are like, the nature of this deck is it's gonna at times win or lose just based on how you draw. Let's keep, see how it goes. Opponent is mulliganing. Spirits matchup's interesting. I do need to sneak this Virtuoso down, so hopefully it's just play a creature here. I mean, if they have the counterspell here, I just lose. You can't play scared. Yep, so I probably lose here. Need to draw a creature. If they just did that last turn, we're in a really good spot. However, now their clock's pretty large. And your removal being situational doesn't help. Give me a creature. They could counter this. This hand just didn't really work out. Very much didn't work out. Alrighty. All in all, we kind of demoed. We showed the good, we showed the bad. Sometimes these decks are going to win, sometimes they're going to lose. And that's kind of the nature of these heroic decks, ultimately. You kind of run into these situations where it's got some ability to pull off, but not the best, all things considered. But let me know what you think. Catch you next time. Thanks for watching.